believe in doing like Jesus did when he was on earth. In Mark 1 and 35, you'll find what Jesus did. And I think this is a great way for everyone to, number one, start your day off. And then number two, to make sure that you get the adequate amount of prayer time, because most of us are not fortunately to live in a house by ourselves, right? You either have a family or you have somebody usually. There's a few people that are just single by themselves, and that happens, but most people are not like that, where they have the whole house to themselves. They can pray anytime and not have the kids running in and out the house, or someone knocking at the door or whatever, or in the house doing things, turn the television up loud. So because most of us have others that live with us, our family, it is important to do like Jesus did in Mark 1 and 35. And in the morning, you can turn there, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place and there prayed. And in the morning, Jesus would get up early in the morning. Many times people will go walk into the mountains or somewhere isolated in a solitary place so he can pray. Now he did that just to show us that we need to pray and to set examples for us. We know Jesus did not need to pray because he is the Word. He had all power. He didn't have to do that, but he did that because his life was all about showing us examples. Jesus went out early in the morning. He did not wait till evening time, because before you leave home every morning, you should want to meet God in prayer, to ask for his instructions, to give him praise, to give him thanks, and to let him guide your day, because we don't know what awaits us that day. So we need guidance from God. We need God to show us what we ought to do every day of our life. That's why prayer is so important. So Jesus made sure he did it the first thing in the morning, early in the morning. I have been in early morning prayer for over 23 years. Getting up early in the morning, praying. My prayer time usually is set at 4 o'clock, but sometimes the Lord wake me up at 3. Like last night, he told me, don't even go to bed, just stay up and pray. And he finally let me go to bed in the wee hours of the morning. But my prayer time usually is set at 4. But many times he wake me up at 3, say get up. Sometimes 2. And just various times, but I have it set at 4. And it's good to set a time, because if he doesn't wake me up before those times, then I know I got to get up at that time. And if you set a time, that means you have an appointed time to meet God. So if you don't usually set a time, usually you won't take time. So you need to set a prayer time. And early in the morning is the best time, because everybody else is asleep. Everybody else is whatever, they're out the way. They're not around to do their own. They are not around to disturb you. You need to set a time. But now I do understand sometimes those of you that may have little babies, especially mothers, it may be difficult because the baby might want milk at 3 o'clock or whatever. But you need to find a time to pray. Some kind of prayer time. Even when our children were very little, we found some kind of time to pray. Always had prayer times. Even when my wife and I would rotate, getting up, changing the baby's diapers, and you know how we do that, especially daddies. When the baby crying, we just try to turn over, act like we heard nothing. Then my wife would nudge me. See, we've been married for over 22 years, and anyway, y'all wanted me to say that. I caught you. You thought I was going to start it today, though. I'm going to start it again. They know what I'm talking about. But anyway, sometimes you roll over and and your wife nudges you because you don't really want to get up anyway. And I would hope that she would hear the baby and get up. But we had set times, and we had to get up in the middle of the night. And one thing I could not stand was a dirty diaper. Man, I would pay $20 a pop to get somebody else to change that dirty diaper. But I had to do it. I had to learn to do it. And my wife would come in there and watch me sometimes, because she'll wonder what's taking so long. And I'm telling you, I have a whole roll of tissue used up. Oh, and starting on a roll of paper towel. 2 or 3 plastic bags to change one little potty section. I mean, I just couldn't do it right. We just don't have the skill. my wife would come in there. She's doing. Me, it's surgery almost. I need to get all my stuff together. I go in there, I need a powder here. I need a little pan with water and soap in here. I need a whole roll of tissue here. I need a thing of paper towel here. I needed, what else I had? I had a whole lot of stuff. Boy, I need a whole room full of stuff by the time. I'm serious, this was serious business for me. It's gonna take about an hour for me to do this because I had to prepare. My seat type just kicked in and I'm very detailed. I gotta prepare because I don't want nobody picking up my child and there's a smudge or you know what somewhere at the bottom of their leg. So I had to precisionally, and please clean your babies like that. Don't let, no. And I had to precisionally clean the baby. I'm gonna get back to the message, but I want to make sure y'all clean y'all child right. So I had to precisionally clean the baby from the bottom of their foot all the way up their legs. I want everything off because we don't want any mistakes on nobody else's clothes, right? So precisionally clean, for me to do that, it took a lot of time, but my wife could do the same job, but just like that. I just couldn't do it that quick. And so sometimes I think she would feel sorry for me not having to take all that time, or having to take all that time, so she would just do it herself. Just go get back, let me do it. And I'd be like, maybe that was my ulterior motive. But getting back to the message, it is important that when we pray, that we make sure we have a set time, because you want to pray at a time that you can be alone with God. No interruptions, no phone calls, no stopping, no nothing. But I want to be focused on God because I want to get in touch with God. And see, even to let you know, the disciples had prayer time. In Acts 3:1, the Bible said, now Peter and John went up together into the temple at the hour of prayer, being the 9th hour, and they prayed. Now, the reason that the Bible mentioned the 9th hour for prayer, because they had a set prayer time. These were the men that walked with Jesus. They did just like Jesus. They had set times that they prayed. And usually, the Jews prayed the 3rd hour, the 6th hour, and the 9th hour. That was customarily their prayer times. And because they had these customary prayer times, they were able to keep their times with God, their times that they prayed with God, and do other things that they needed to do in their life. But it was so important that we pray because, see, when we pray, we get intimate with God in the spiritual realm. You become more like God the more you pray. The more you pray, you become spiritually focused because God imparts what He wants you to know. He gives it to you through prayer. He imparts His Spirit in you, and then through prayer, He began to impart His wisdom and knowledge in you. There is no way you can be close to God without praying. There's no way you can be closer to God without having a strong prayer life, because the stronger your prayer life, the stronger you're going to be in God. The stronger your prayer life, the stronger you're going to be able to resist temptation and to do the things that God would have you to do, because it takes prayer. The more you pray, the more you become closer to God, and God begins to do things in your life that you want Him to do. Now the Bible talks about in James 5:16, verse 16, part B, the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Now the New Living Translation, the New Living Translation version, or International Version rather, it says the prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. But the King James Version say the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Effectual, a person that is long-suffering. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop it. I'm not going to stop praying until I get an answer. I will endure in prayer until something happens. And then fervent is when a person prays with intensity. Meaning that a person is praying because there is a need. There is something passionately that I'm praying about because I want to get an answer from God. I want God to do something that I have a need for. And I'm not going to stop praying until He does it. So then you become a fervent prayer. That means you are passionately intense about what you're praying about, because this is serious. I need God to help me here. I need God to come to my rescue, because if God doesn't come and help me, I don't know how I'm going to make it. How many of you don't have to raise your hand, but how many of you have had a need you were so desperately needing help from God with, that you prayed intensely? You went into fervent prayer and you said, Lord, I'm going to stay here in prayer until you bless me. Lord, I'm not going to give up on this prayer, because God, if you don't help me, I might lose my mind. Lord, if you don't come through tonight, I don't know if I'm going to make it to tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to endure through this trial, this test, God. It's too much for me. I need you to come to my rescue right now. So then you went into a fervent prayer because you were intensely passionate about needing God's help. And God, if you don't help me, God, this might be over. This is probably it for me, God, if you don't come to my rescue. I can't make it, God. It's too much for me. It's too much for me to handle. So I need your help, God. I need your strength, God. I need your power, God. I need your blessings over my life. I need a word, God. You know, sometimes we get to a place when we talk to God and we simply just want to know that God is there. You know, sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you begin to pray, and sometimes you don't feel God as closely as you felt him in the past. And so then you begin to pray because you just want to feel God close to you. Lord, I'm not just asking you this morning for a list of things, but God, I just want to feel you close to me. I just want to know that you're there. I just want to know that you're touching me. I want to know that you're present, God. I just need to feel it near me. And so then you begin to pray, and as you begin to pray, you begin to get in that secret place with God. You see, once you learn to become an effectual, fervent prayer, you learn how to be translated in the spiritual realm to high places with God. You learn how to pray in the presence of God. You see, the more you begin to participate in prayer, you'll find that there are levels in prayer. You see, there's levels in prayer that you go to in the spiritual realm, where you begin to get closer to God the more you pray. It's just like, if you allow me to use this analogy, in school. You know, in first grade, then you go to second grade after you get promoted, then third, and then fourth grade. You see, there are levels in the prayer realm that you can go in God, but guess what? You never graduate, because God is so deep and there's so much to God. But every time you begin to elevate in your prayer, he'll just take you to another level. You see, some people say, how is it that you could be a prayer and you pray for hours every day without getting tired? Well, it's because I've been praying for over 23 years in that particular prayer setting. I remember as early as 18 years old, over 23 years ago, I began to get introduced to prayer, and I began to start praying 2 to 3 hours a day back then. And then as the years began to progress and God began to take me to levels in prayer, I began to get somewhat so excited and began to get so attached to prayer, that because when God began to open up things to you in the spiritual realm, you realize and understand that there is great blessings in getting closer to God. And every time God began to elevate me in prayer, I began to see things greater spiritually. God began to allow me to experience things that I've never experienced before. And that's what God wants all of us to have, experiences with him. But you have to be a person that will go beyond yourself and allow God to elevate you in prayer. You see, to be an effectual, fervent prayer, you cannot be the type of person that have a time limit when you begin to get in prayer. But you have to be the kind of person that says, Lord, I'm here as long as it takes, because I'm trying to get somewhere in you, or I have a need and I need you to bless me, Lord. So I'm willing to put aside what I want to do. I'm willing to put my flesh aside and allow you to bless me, that I can be what you want me to be. Come on, put your hands together and give God a praise. I'm Dr. Lowe here. You see, it's something about prayer. You see, the more